Thanks for tuning in to The Real Deal Show, brought to you by ebodyboarding.com and Tribe Boards. So just before we move on to the next question, what would you say was the highlight of your competitive career? I mean, you had a ton of highlights, but can you pick one event that really sort of solidified, your what you remember as your most important victory? Or
You know what? It's funny. After winning the third nationals, I think it was '83, I made a stupid announcement, on the beach that I'm retiring.
I remember that.
I won $1,000.
This is my retirement.
Yeah.
Those words.
'83. I got $1,000. I'm rich. I'm retiring. I'm done.
And people thought you were really retiring.
Yeah. That was very gratifying. '83. I wanted to get so I won in 80, 81, 82, and '83. So that's 4 years in a row. In '84, I lost motivation, but no excuse. I lost motivation. Pat Caldwell won. He absolutely killed that final.
Yep.
I'm not sure if '85 I went to Mexico. I'm not sure if it was '85 or '86, but I got sick and I missed the whole event. I was in an emergency room getting my stomach pumped.
Jeez.
But the 1 year I really set my goals. I think it was '86, and I snuck away up to Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
And I did. That's where I would do a lot of my training in that area, in a couple of the reefs up there. And I trained for about a week up there, and I Countess rode. I free surfed and I Countess rode, and then I went to the event at the pier, and I made it through round 1, round 2, round 3. Semifinals, and then in the final, my first wave, drop knee roll, boom, came down, got a really good score, and mind you, I think we needed 4 waves.
Yep.
Your best 4 waves, and then second wave, a big old snap, and I was just on a roll. If I had to pinpoint one event that was the most gratifying, it was taking the title back. It would have to be '85.
Yeah.
It would have to be '85.
Because you had put in the work and you felt like it was vindication of all the work you put in.
Yeah. So I've had good success at that event. I think I won it 6 times. I can't remember if it's 5 or 6.
Sorry about the music. Hang on a sec, guys. There we go. Music's off.
So I recently went to my parents' house and started counting the trophies, and I counted 5, but then again, my parents didn't because they moved from Waikiki to the Big Island, and they didn't reassemble all the trophies. They're just the ones that kind of look shiny. I guess. But I think I won the event 6 times. That's
impressive, man.
But yeah, I think the year that I won the title back, which probably was '85, was my most gratifying win.
Well, kind of a good way to go out, from competition is having that comeback win. And at around '85, the tour was still going on. Actually, the U.S. tour was just starting up, obviously. Yeah. So you refocused. We already talked about what became the Bud Surf Tour, and you had a great career in that, especially initially when you won the first year they had that tour. But let's move away from competition talk, and let's talk briefly about your connection with San Clemente. I mean, you started spending your summers here. How did that all come about?
So 1980, I was invited to the Nationals, but so I stayed in Oceanside. I stayed at Patty's house. I recently found out that was actually Roger Waller and Scott Evans' house as well.
I stayed there too 1 year for the Nationals.
Yeah, 925 South Pacific.
Yes.
And so I stayed there for a brief stint, and that was 1980.
Yep.
And then the next year I came over, which was 1981, 80 and 81, and naturally. I can't remember if that's the year. I think it was. I stayed with Tony Prince that year. No. Tony Prince's house was 82.
Okay.
So 1981, I actually spent my time between Oceanside, and I stayed with Carl Ring
Okay.
Carl Ring, who lived in Mission Viejo, but went down to T Street every single day. And
because that's where he went. Like
yeah,
he told you go to this spot, T Street.
Yeah, well, T Street was where he cut his teeth.
Yep.
Right in the boogie, and I just really enjoyed the area.
Yeah.
And then my last day in San Clemente, before going back down to Oceanside and taking off out of San Diego Airport, I paddled out. I got about 4 or 5 waves, and Rick Goddard, who's a San Clemente photographer, a legend in photography, not just in San Clemente, took a few photos of me.
Yeah.
One of them was a barrel. One of them was me spraying this little kid. One of them was a bottom turn. Oh, and another one was of me hitting the lip. And then a couple weeks later, I think I received a phone call asking me to for my permission. Maury wants to do an ad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. And that right there really made me really like San Clemente.
Yeah.
Really like San Clemente. And then 82, I spent the year with Tony Prince, which we called the Polizada Hotel. It was on Polizada Street. And it was, he had a couple roommates. He was really good friends with Pat Caldwell.
Yep.
And so it's funny enough is that is when we first met Mike Stewart. Mike Stewart came over to Sandy Beach out of nowhere.
Oh yeah.
And he started ripping Sandy Beach on one of the first Mach 7 prototypes.
Okay.
But Mike Stewart and I shared a room at the Polizada Hotel.
Funny.
Yeah. And really, that's how I really became attracted to San Clemente and came back every single year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you became such an ingrained part of the surf culture here that you became citizen of the day at one point. Fred Sweggles, who still writes for the local newspaper, by the way.
Yeah.
He used to have a citizen of the day in the San Clemente Sun Post, and you got it. Guy from Hawaii.
3 times.
3 times?
Yeah. 3. Well,
Jeez.
because at back then I spent probably 5 months of the year in San Clemente.
Yep.
5 months of the year, 6 months of the year back home, and 1 month wherever it would be. And most of that time was actually this is closer to like 87. I would spend close to a month in Cronulla. In Australia.
Wow.
So 6 months, 4 months, 1 month or 2 months, completely on the road.
But you always seem to do a great job of meeting up with the most prominent local surf stars. Like you were buddies with Archie and Dino and probably Mike Parsons, all those guys. You became surf buddies with them at least, right?
Yeah. So I believe it was 1983. The year after I stayed with Tony, I came down to San Clemente, and I met Archie in 82. So Archie came over to Hawaii also in 82. Took him surfing V-Land. He met Caven back then. And so when I came over in 83, I needed a place to stay.
Yep.
Stayed with Archie. Archie was a little kid. And
wasn't Martin Potter staying with one of those guys? I know Potts used to spend time.
Potts stayed with at first Potts stayed with legend lifeguard Mike Gerard, and then he started hanging out with Jimmy Hogan.
Oh yeah,
a little more. And Potts and I became really good friends back then.
Yeah,
Potts was one of the reasons why I eventually got hired by O'Neill.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So a lot of that surfing influence kept going and kind of fueled your whole existence. I think I'd like to say that you learned a lot about being a pro bodyboarder, maybe from being around these guys who were pro surfers, right? Did you learn some stuff from those guys? A little bit, but again, it goes back to Sean. Sean, and this is what blew me away, is I can't remember what year it was, probably 79. Sean Thompson
drove from the North Shore to do an autograph session at Surfline Hawaii. It was Ben Ipa's surf shop. And here I am, I'm a boogie boarder. And Sean looks at me, hey, what's your name? I'm Keith. Sean gives me an autograph. Okay? And I hung out the entire 90 minutes that Sean was there, okay? And then all of a sudden, I'm waiting at the bus stop, ready to get my bus back home or go to the beach. And here is this blue, busted up car, North Shore car, right? Backfiring and everything. And all of a sudden, it stops at the bus stop, and it's Sean. And Sean goes, see you later, Keith. Nice to meet you. And
so he remembered you.
He remembered me.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
The fact that he had that professionalism in him to acknowledge me, someone who he just met, at an autograph session that shared the love of the ocean, but not the same craft.
Yeah.
Right. That pointed me in the direction of being a professional.
Which dovetails into what I'm about to say. I moved to California. I've already covered this in a previous show. I moved out here in '87, initially living in Oceanside, and then Keith had lived in an apartment down by the pier, and he had a couple roommates. And my roommate Dave Kniff moved out to take a job with Club Med. I didn't have anywhere to live, and Keith said, "We got a spot on the couch for you. One of our roommates moving out in a month. Just crash on the couch for a month, and then you got a room." So I moved in with Keith, and that was the beginning of my pro bodyboarding career. I really didn't know much, but I learned so much from this guy about how to be a professional, not just a good bodyboarder, because I was never that great, but I learned how to do the business side of the sport right. And I learned almost all of that from Keith, and I've told you this before, I'm forever grateful to all that I learned from you. And I know you used to, take my wetsuits when they would come in the mail just to bum me, just to ride me a little bit, which is what roommates and friends do to each other. But it was all in fun, and man, so many business tips that I learned from this guy. He was the quintessential master of not just how to ride well, but how to deal with his sponsors, deal with the public. He was always there at the autograph signings, throwing out stickers, signing every autograph for everyone. He wasn't one of these guys that said, man, I'm too tired. I've been surfing all day. I just want to go home. Where are these kids? I'll sign the autographs. He was on it all the time, and people remember that. Sponsors remember that, and that's why he had such a long and illustrious career. So, I could go on, but I don't want to embarrass you too much.
Thanks, Jay. But it's funny because again, that little instance with Sean pushed me, and then there was another milestone in that. Part of my O'Neill contract was photo incentive.
Yep.
And I really didn't know how it worked, but I was wearing the wetsuits, etc. And all of a sudden, I have a shot in a magazine, and a big old O'Neill logo sticking out. And I took a chance. I took that shot. I gave it to the marketing manager, who was Willie Morris back then.
Oh yeah.
Put it on Willie's desk, and he said, "I'll take care of it." A couple of weeks later, I get a check for $75, and I just go.
All I had to do was make a photocopy and send it in.
Exactly. And from that moment on, it was game on.
Yeah.
It was game on. It turned into me having the logos there, then me really checking out photos of. Here I am bottom turning, but I can't see the logo, so I'm going to ask O'Neill to put the logo here. Okay, yep. Here I am, bottom turning, and you can't see any logos on the deck. So I started stenciling logos on my fins.
Yep.
I started stenciling logos on my board. I make stencils.
That's how I talked about this in a prior show, and I talked about learning all of that from you, specifically the fin thing, because when you're drop kneeing, your foot covers the logo. So
right.
You stencil
and so it came to the point where I could do a big cutback in front of the photographer, Aaron Lloyd, or whoever it may be, Hank or Flame back then, Mike Moyer, and all of a sudden there'd be 6 logos, and depends on where the photo was, in the magazine. If it was a quarter page, it'd still make good money.
Yeah.
But if it was a cover, that's $500 per logo.
Yeah. That pay your rent for 2 months.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Our rent down on Avenue Santa Barbara.
So one photo, being on the cover, you're $3,000 richer. Back then, that was huge money. You give me $3,000 today, I'll still take it.
And I talked about in my previous show how I think I learned this from you, Keith, when we get up for the awards ceremonies. Yep. You never knew somebody in a local newspaper would snap a shot. Yep. Oh, here's the finalist. So you'd put stickers on your T-shirt of all your sponsors.
I did.
That could be, maybe it's a little local paper. You might get $200 if all your logos.
Exactly.
So I learned all that from this guy and how to invoice your sponsors, how to make copies, send it in. So we were regulars at the copy centers making copies of all that. When a lot of other guys who were pro bodyboarders, they never even bothered to make copies and send them to their sponsors. So they were leaving money on the table, really. But that goes back to the longevity of your career,
Again, willing to speak to the press. People are curious.
Yeah.
People are curious to find out what you were thinking, what contributed to your success, what contributed to that win, and just working with the press, and learning how to speak.
Yeah. So, right? Did you speak Pidgin when you were growing up in Hawaii?
No, oh yeah, definitely. And one of the funniest things is this would have been 81 or so. I'm at Carl Ring's house in Mission Viejo, and there's this big lizard, and it has a lot of thorns on it. Right? They teased me all summer because the first thing I said when I saw that lizard was, "Oh, such big thorns."
Tawns.
Such big tawns.
How many? Tree.
So
that was it. This pigeon stopped.
No, it was still there.
Well, you had to, that's how you fit in Hawaii, right? You speak the pigeon. So, all right. So you're living in San Clemente. I had moved in, and we had a pretty amazing place. We had, basically, it was like a flop house for anyone who was in town for bodyboarding. Mostly guys from Hawaii would stay with us. Yeah. And we would just spend our days at T-Pit. We would go all day, just sit there. We'd surf a couple times, and in between, grommets would get corn dogged and pink-bellied, right?
It was brutal back then. I'm surprised. To be quite honest with you, it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was brutal. I mean, pink bellies, corn dogs, kids coming to the beach, jump in the water, and they come out looking for their stuff, and it's buried 6 feet under the sand.
Even I got corn dogged when I first moved to San Clemente.
Yeah, there was a period back then when the top guys, Cameron Steele, myself, you, Caven, a couple of others were sponsored by the same wetsuit brand, which was O'Neill.
Yep.
And if you did not have an O'Neill product, either or logo on your board, you were not allowed to hang out at the tables.
I don't remember that one. Yeah, but it doesn't surprise me.
And so if you came down with another brand, you would have to sit on the fourth table.
That's the definition of guerrilla marketing right there, man.
Yeah. But we were pretty brutal back then.
Yeah. So the cool thing is, we all had a session today out of T Street. Keith, Cameron, myself, and Caven was out there, and a couple faces from the old days. It just feels familiar. We've been surfing that spot for almost 4 decades, and not a whole lot has changed. The wave is still there. Mm-hmm. The snack bar is still there. Keith was hanging by the snack bar when he got out, just like we used to.
I did. And, one of the other kids that we used to pick on back then, skinny kid who was probably 80 pounds, was Eric Apple.
Yeah.
He came out today. Eric today is just about 6 feet tall. Yep. He's 200 pounds, fit as can be.
He's like an MMA fighter now.
Yeah,
so.
he
Much like Kainoa, right?
Yeah.
Big and gnarly.
Yeah, so it was fun. It was pretty cool.
Those were the good times, man. So the first year I lived in California, we were going to spend the winter in Hawaii because that was the way to do it. You'd stay on the North Shore for 4 months, work with photographers every day because Bodyboarding magazine was kind of new. It started in 85, and this was the winter of 87, 88. Mm-hmm. And so Keith and I were roommates. Andy Fomenko, pro surfer, was good friends with Keith.
Yep.
I had met Andy that fall of living in San Clemente, so we rented a house at Waimea.
We did. So there were 3 bedrooms. Jay had the one closest to the mountains. I had the one in the middle. Andy had the one closest to the road, which was the bigger one. Then we had the big living room. We rented out one corner of the living room to Danny Kim. And then we had revolving guests. Kevin Okamura was one of the revolving guests, along with his twin brother Steven. And then we had Nigel Tarberton.
Oh my God!
And Per Lofstrom also spent time at the house.
South African guys.
Yeah, yes. And that was amazing. I was talking to Andy about that earlier. Of again how some of the torture continued, but unfortunately the torture was because there were no grommets in the house. It was concentrated on
me,
on Jay.
I'll just fill you guys in. So we didn't have a TV. We didn't want to pay for cable. We were too cheap. So we had these old boards, Maury boards, because we were sponsored by Maury, that we used for photo shoots. And we had finished the photo shoot, so we were bored one night. And we took these little tourist magazines and made paper darts. This is just one of the tortures. I'll get into another one in a minute. So the paper darts I had never seen, but I forget if it was you or Andy or someone was blowing these paper darts, and they were sticking into these boards. I couldn't believe a piece of paper could be so sharp. So I said, shoot it on my back. I can't believe that's going to pierce my skin. So I stood there like an idiot, and Andy shoots one at my back. It literally made me bleed. I couldn't believe it, man. So that was just the beginning. Now, the Bad album, I think, came out from Michael Jackson. Keith loved that album, and he would play it relentlessly, so much to the point where I couldn't stand it anymore. I begged him to not play it. Is this ringing a bell to you?
Well, it was actually called Michael Jackson Hour.
Okay, yeah, every day.
Every day, Michael Jackson Hour. Okay, and so we would start the Bad album. Okay, and Jay would tolerate it up to a certain point. And Jay was famous, he still is famous, for changing lyrics of a song. So Michael Jackson would be singing, and so Michael Jackson would be singing, and then all of a sudden Jay would start singing Michael Jackson, but he'd say, I can't stop changing my face.
Eventually it was an Al Yankovic version.
And so when that would happen, Andy and I would look at each other, and we'd start the album all over again.
That was my punishment.
That was his punishment.
And let's talk about Per and Nigel, what they did to me with my cupcake.
Okay, well, the cupcake's is too brutal.
It's too graphic.
Too graphic.
To share
but
here.
One of the best ones is Jay, and I think Vicky told me that he still does this to a certain point.
Oh, jeez.
So Jay would buy a bag of chips, and he turns the chips around so he can get the crumbs first. And so a 12-ounce bag, he knows he has 12 servings. That's just one thing. Okay.
I am still like this.
Same thing with the cereal.
The sickness.
He would divide it to a certain point.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay,
Right.
portion it out.
Portion it out. So here's Jay. He's at the bottom of his cereal, whatever it may have been back then. And then he's at the last 4 ounces of his milk. Okay.
I got it perfect. I got just enough milk for just enough cereal.
Perfectly proportioned out. Okay. So Jay, here he is, 7 o'clock in the morning, having his breakfast. About ready to have his breakfast. Literally, you know that Nigel woke up at 6:45.
Oh no.
Had the last of Jay's milk.
Yeah.
Filled up the milk carton with water.
I didn't know it.
Jay shakes the milk carton and
Yeah, there's milk in there.
puts it on his cereal.
Ruins the cereal. Pissed me off.
Jay doesn't swear that much,
No, man.
but yeah.
Yeah, that was just
There's some
every
choice
day.
words.
It was every day. I had a car that wouldn't start a lot.
The Wiggigamobile.
Because
Yeah,
I would turn the key and I go, Wiggiga, Wiggiga, Wiggiga. And I could hear Keith and all the guys in the house cracking up because I was dying to get to Rocky Point for a photo shoot and I couldn't start my car. Wiggiga, Wiggiga, Wiggiga. So,
But what added to your frustration was, as you mentioned in the very beginning, is that I would hire your wetsuits.
yes.
And so you received brand new wetsuits, and we hid them for you. We hid them from you for several days, and we finally gave them to you. And so you're motivated to go get photos because I think the weather had been bad for several days, and this is your first occasion to get photos in
With
your
sunshine.
new wetsuits. But your car would not start because of the rain.
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, and it just added to your frustration.
Oh, God. That was a great winter.
It was fun times.
I'll share one more story, Keith. We could go on for like 2 hours, but let's just finish one more story, and then some other time we'll
Sounds
cover
good.
the rest of your career and life. But this is a story that happened that winter, and you'll remember this vividly, Keith, because it was I think it was Friday, January 13th, 1988.
Yep.
It was a rainy night. There was like lightning and thunder, and we decided we would go to the Poly Lookout. And the legend was that, first of all, if you saw these little lights in the woods, they were many hoonies, and if you looked them in the eye, you would die or something like that.
You would
Right?
you would meet your maker.
You'd meet your maker. So
Right.
do not look at the little lights in the woods if you go at night to the Poly Lookout. And also, somebody decided that because bringing pork to a Hawaiian holy place like that was not good. It was taboo, right?
It was considered taboo.
Like the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. So, Caven and I were real skeptical at doing it. Danny Kim was terrified. But Andy, our really good friend, really wanted to take on the dare,
Yes.
and so did Jay, and our good photographer friend Brian Bielman. So Jay, being on a budget, ran to Foodland and came back with pork sausage links, I think.
No, it was pig's foot. I got a pig's foot. I remember because I was in Foodland.
Okay, somebody brought like sausage links. Probably, yeah. It's probably Bielman.
Jimmy Dean.
But anyway, so we take two cars up there. And we decided to go up as the clock turned into Friday the 13th.
That's right.
At midnight.
That's right.
And we're there, and we're waving the pork around, and we're even taunting
Things we shouldn't have been taunting.
We shouldn't. So
Stupid kids.
Yeah. Nothing happened.
That night.
That night. But I do remember driving back to the North Shore. I was driving one of the cars, and I'm not sure who was in the car. It's probably Danny and Caven, Andy for sure. And we're going down the long Pineapple Hill. I turn off the lights in the car. Going downhill, and I step on the brakes and I scream. I yell, and Danny and Caven and whoever else scream.
Freaking out.
Scream like, these days you can't say what they scream like.
Of course.
Yeah. But anyways, so nothing happened to us
Right.
when we were there.
So we thought, okay, we're home free.
But the next day, which was Friday the 13th, we gave Jay's wetsuits back, and that's when his car wouldn't start.
That's right.
No photos for Jay.
Yep.
No photo incentives. I tweaked my shoulder.
Yep.
Okay. Caven got in some sort of trouble. I forgot what it was. I think, I'm not sure if he had to get to work.
That was Polson. Sean
That was
Polson was
Polson.
with us.
Polson
he was late for work.
Late for work, right.
And almost got fired.
Almost got fired. Steven, his leash broke on his brand new surfboard into the rocks at Rocky Point.
Yep. Do you remember what happened to Bielman?
Okay, Danny had girl problems.
Oh, well, that was ongoing.
And then Bielman had what he thought one of the best photo sessions of his life.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's like, I've been shooting for like about 80 minutes on this roll of film.
Yes.
36 slides back then. You could push it to 38 probably. Then he realizes he doesn't have film in the camera.
Yes. Missed all
of that. So somehow the gods got us back.
We all had bad luck the next day. It taught us all a lesson not to mess
with it. Yeah.
So that was just that winter of '87. We went on, to have a lot of years in the North Shore. That was the only year we stayed together, as I recall. But
truly stayed together. I mean, we may have shared a couple days here, shared a couple days there.
Yep.
You eventually scored the best spot on the whole North Shore every single year for several years. I crashed on the floor a couple days when Chris Cunningham was your roommate back then.
Smoke 'em up, Cunningham.
Yeah. But
Yeah, so that good times at the beginning of my career, in the middle of Keith's career, and the stories go on forever. As I said, we'll pick up some other time with kind of the rest, because there's so much more to tell, really. But we've been here for over an hour, and I know I want to finish working and get home. Keith wants to get where he's going. So, folks, thank you for watching. Keith, thanks, man. Totally appreciate it.
Thank you,
man.
Jay.
40 years almost as friends now, and I don't know if we'll still be alive 40 years from now. I doubt it.
Push me down Diamond Head in my wheelchair with my Depends on.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to Jay. To Jay, I met great people as well. Buckwheat.
Yes, our friend Buckwheat, who I'm going to get on a show at some point in the future.
Strawley.
Yeah.
Your brother, your mom, your dad, you're walking through the donut shop and having the best donuts in the world.
Yeah, man.
I met really good people through Jay as well. So
and we're a lot of us are still friends. We still keep in touch. Facebook, social media helps with that.
Certainly.
Certainly. And Keith, when he comes to town, we get to surf. When I go to Hawaii, we meet up. So, we may not see each other for a year or two at a time, but it's we just fall right back into it. So it's a blessing. So
and we'll continue the story. We'll try not to bring up some of the more graphic
we'll do that one
things that I did with my VCR and
oh yeah, man. We'll do another channel for that one.
Yeah.
But folks, thank you for watching and listening on the podcast. If you've enjoyed this interview with Keith, give it the thumbs up. Put some comments down below. This guy's a legend. He definitely is, a guy that I want to interview again because we're such good friends, and he's so important to the sport. So that'll do it for now for the Real Deal Show, folks. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time, and we'll see you in the surf.
Mahalo.
See ya.